3, go.
Have you ever watched an action movie and been amazed by the fight scenes, the high-flying kicks, the perfect takedowns? It's thrilling, but it's also misleading. What if I told you that what we see on screens comes from real martial arts traditions that have been practiced for centuries? And what if I told you that because of colonization, westernization, and commercialization, most people have no idea where these traditions actually come from? I know this because I've lived it. For the past 13 years, I've trained in various martial arts styles and I've held an instructing position for the past 2. Within my advancement, I noticed something. The martial arts that I grew up in weren't the same ones that I was now expected to teach to my students. The curriculum has changed. There's more belts, more programs, more ways to sell training, and that most of the kids coming into my classes weren't there to learn tradition. They wanted to fight like characters from their favorite action movies. Their entire perception of the martial arts had been shaped by entertainment rather than history. Now, with 6.6 million practitioners in the US alone, this isn't a niche issue. In fact, it reflects a broader pattern of cultural transformation. This phenomenon can also be observed in Maori oral traditions. Just as martial arts have been reshaped and reinterpreted in contemporary culture, Maori narratives have undergone significant alteration through colonial reinterpretation. This process has not only changed their original meanings, but severed their deep genealogical ties. Martial arts have been reshaped by global powers, turning philosophical disciplines into commercialized products and military training tools. Colin Powell in Of Memory and Our Democracy argues that national monuments serve as reminders of our shared identity, but they are also controlled by the political forces that choose which histories to preserve. Much like these monuments, martial arts are at risk of being reshaped by dominant narratives and losing their original meanings. And with millions practicing under these altered perceptions, it raises an important question. How have colonization, westernization, and commercialization diluted the cultural significance of the martial arts? Now, to address this, I recognize that martial arts have always been more than just fighting. They're a connection to history, philosophy, and national identity. But over time, this connection has weakened. I argue that these forces have reshaped martial arts into something far removed from their original purpose. Take arnis, also known as eskrima or kali, the national sport of the Philippines, for example. Historian of Filipino martial arts, Dominic Sanchez, states that this style was originally developed as a battlefield combat system, but under Spanish colonization, it was influenced by European fencing, and then under American rule, it was transformed into a sport for safety and regulatory purposes. Today, it's often taught in mixed-style schools and by law enforcement, but its original warrior philosophy has been largely overshadowed. Similarly, in China, Wushu was once deeply connected to Taoism, Buddhism, and military tradition. According to Professor Tingshan Normal University, Chun-Li Zhu, this practice not only served as a method of combat, but as a path to spiritual growth and military tradition. Over time, however, it has evolved into a competitive sport where performance and showmanship overshadow its deeper historical and philosophical roots. These examples demonstrate the danger of cultural transformation. So, what can we do about this? As practitioners and instructors, we can restore these diluted practices by re-emphasizing their historical and philosophical elements. By doing this, critical effort is particularly important in light of how martial arts are portrayed in popular culture. This transformation is further accelerated by the portrayal of martial arts in movies. Films tend to focus on external spectacles such as flashy choreography, while neglecting their deeper spiritual and philosophical meanings. Kyle Bauman, professor at Columbia College Chicago, argues that these depictions frequently fail to capture the true essence of martial arts, reducing them to mere choreography. As instructors, we must actively counter this trend, by not just teaching fighting techniques, but the spirit behind each movement. And by doing so, we reconnect martial arts to the values that they were meant to uphold. And there is hope for this. Bruce Lee's impact on the martial arts serves as a powerful reminder of the potential to bring them back to their roots. His films not only showcase physical prowess, but deep philosophical insights. Paul Bauman, professor of cultural studies at Cardiff University, argues that Bruce Lee helped bridge the gap between traditional martial arts and their modern representation, pushing for a balance between combat and spiritual growth. However, Bauman's perspective, while insightful, focuses strictly on cultural studies rather than real martial arts practice. While Bruce Lee helped shape global perceptions of the martial arts, his films fueled commercialization in ways that compromised rather than preserved their original essence. The issue at my academy is that students often arrive with a media-driven view of the martial arts as mere combat. By refocusing our teaching to philosophical and historical areas, we can transform the martial arts into a tool for cultural preservation. However, there are limitations to consider, as commercialized martial arts are deeply ingrained into today's industry. They prioritize fast belt promotions and fitness and student turnover. By shifting our focus to philosophy, it could risk losing financial stability and mass appeal. So, what would it mean to adopt a more philosophy-driven view of the martial arts? First, schools would need to rethink their curriculum. Today, schools prioritize fast belt promotions and streamlined training. However, a shift toward philosophy could risk losing those students who are drawn to the martial arts for quick results because they require longer training periods and potentially higher cost. Additionally, students and instructors may resist change, as many are drawn to the martial arts for fitness and self-defense benefits. Plus, instructors often tailor their teachings to meet these expectations, making this approach less appealing. Finally, the reality is no solution is without obstacles, but the alternative, allowing martial arts to drift further from their origins, means losing something far greater than just tradition. By making this shift, we reconnect martial arts to the values that they were meant to uphold: discipline, respect, and history. And if we do this, we don't just create better fighters, but better martial artists. Thank you for your time, and here are my works cited pages.